What's up, Raiders? Tristan here, and I just want to say happy St. Patrick's Day. St. Patrick's Day is a special day for me and my family, especially my wife, who's Irish, a redhead, and a Scorpio. I like to live dangerously. It's like the triple threat. But seriously, even above and beyond that, it's my son's birthday, so I always love seeing the games I play celebrate St. Patrick's Day along with the rest of us. And on top of that, we're celebrating the 6th anniversary of this game. So what better way to jump into the celebratory madness than to use the download link in the description of my video. This link will start you off with the legendary hero Elenerol and the epic hero Rector Drath. Right out of the gate, one of the strongest healers in the game and one of the best poison HP burn units in the game. Get you a great start, so make sure you use that link or scan that QR code to start this game. But let's talk more about the celebrations. Now, some of you may have noticed here under this events tab, if you scroll down, there's this starting today, well, in a few hours, but today, by the time you see this, the Verdant Deck of Fate. Complete objectives and get clover coins and flip cards. It doesn't really go into much of what's going on, but luckily for you guys, I found a screenshot that explains a little more detail. It says here, get the legendary Void Champion Kawn Branchbreaker in a Verdant Deck of Fate event. So looks like we can do this event and just pick up a legendary Void hero, and that's crazy. Get clover coins by summoning soul stones, so we gotta summon soul stones. Get artifacts, so it's a dungeon diver event. And summoning champions, so summoning event. That's a little rough right after like a summoning event that we just had going for Lord Entertainer Fabian. So I think this hero might be for people who, just weren't that into Lord Fabian or wanting something different. Maybe they go for this guy instead. Going for both, you better be ready to break out your wallet, or you better have been saving up for a while, because that's going to be a little bit rough having these that close together. Use the clover coins you get from doing these events to then flip cards for rewards. The rarer the cards, the better the rewards. Happy St. Patrick's Day and happy raiding. Okay, so Kawn Branchbreaker. Let's go check him out. And we'll slide over to the index and look at the orcs. And right here he is, Kawn. Okay, so he is, wow. Okay, he looks cool. This is everything an orc should be. Spikes, staples, a giant freaking axe that's almost more of a hammer than an axe. Skulls of his enemies strapped to his back. This guy looks really cool. But how good is he? So he's a defense type hero. So in spite of the menacing axe and huge arms, he is a defense type hero. So let's check out his skills. His number one skill, Timber Maker, attacks one enemy. Before attacking, removes one random buff from the target. This effect cannot be resisted if the champion is under a shield buff. Okay, so he either is going to need to apply his own shields, or somebody is going to have to give him shields, because a guaranteed ignore resistance strip is kind of nice for taking buffs off of opponents. Places a block revive debuff if this attack kills an enemy. Wow. Extinction on an A1 skill. To be able to kill an enemy and block its ability to come back to life. That's kind of huge, because I don't know if you felt it, but it feels like everything revives right now. Maybe it's because you get Rector Drath with download links, or because she was in the battle pass, but it just seems everything is reviving lately. So having a way to stop that would feel so good for me. Increases the value of any shield buff on this champion by 30% of the damage dealt. Whoa, okay, wait. Cannot increase more than 10. Okay, good, they cap it. So, but still, he can give himself up to a 10,000 damage shield. That's a pretty thick shield to have. And his damage scales off of his defense. Okay, and looks like when you skill him up, book him up, you just do more damage, up to 20% more damage. So that... The number one skill itself wasn't super impressive to me, except for the block revive. That really has my eye. Let's check out his A2 skill. Attacks all enemies. So Barkbreaker is an AoE attack, attacks all enemies, ignores a percentage of each target's defense equal to 50% of the difference between this champion's max HP and shields on them. I feel like I'm back in algebra class. This is one hell of a sentence. Okay, so let's break this down. Ignores a percentage of the target's defense, so he penetrates defense, equal to 50% of the difference between his health and any shield on them. So the way I'm reading this is, let's say, we'll just use small numbers for easier math, right? Let's say he's got 10,000 health, and the enemy has a 1,000 health shield on it. The difference between 10,000 and 1,000 would be 9,000. It's 90% of that 10,000 health. So he would penetrate that by half of that 90%. So it would be a 45% penetration. What's unusual about this is, if I'm reading it right, that means the bigger the shield, the less he's going to penetrate defense. So he's going to be really good into targets with small shields, or targets that have shields that are, mostly worn down. Because if he has 100,000 health and the target has a 100 HP shield, that's like a 0.1%. So he would penetrate 99.5%. You would do half of that. That's what, 49.5% defense penetration. But if the enemy had a 50k shield, well, that's a little unreasonable. Let's say the enemy had a 10k health shield and he had 20k health. That's only 50% difference cut in half. It's only a 25% defense penetration. So yeah, the thicker the shield, the less he'll penetrate the defense. I guess the one question I have is, what if there's no shield? Now, if there's no shield, does that mean it's the difference between his HP and the fact that there's zero shield? The difference is 100%, so he gets immediate 50% penetration on this to anybody that's not wearing a shield. If so, this is pretty impressive. A 50% penetration AoE skill would be great, but if a shield is required, it'll be good into small shields, but not good into really big shields. So I don't know. I mean, it couldn't be the other way, right? If it was a 20k shield and he's got 100k health, that's only 20%, and he would only do half of that. It's only 10% penetration. It can't be that way. It's got to be the difference, and that's the exact way it's written. So yeah, he will do more damage, more penetration, the smaller the shield is. And I guess that's my big question: is will there not being a shield let him get the full 50% penetration or not? Anyway, I'd love it if somebody was on the test server who could spell this out for me. Otherwise, we'll just have to see when he goes live. Also, destroys each target's max HP by 20% of the damage inflicted, stacks up to 50%. Effect will ignore any shield buffs. So he will hit through the shield, doing injury, destroying their max health, so making their health smaller, and ignoring the shields. That'll let him punch right through the shields, so the extra penetration damage he does will not be eaten up by the shield. He'll hit underneath the shield, so you don't have to worry about him not being able to break the shield if the shield's too big. You'll still be able to penetrate through the defense and do the injury to them, lowering the max HP. Okay, I mean, all this is interesting, but it feels really clunky. I'm just worried that 50% of the difference isn't going to be a lot. At most, it could potentially be a 50% penetration, which is bonkers on an AoE, but I think unless and the other thing too is he is a defense scaler. Damage is based on defense. Damage is based on defense. You're wanting to build him with defense, but it scales between his HP. It just kind of feels weird. Anyway, let's look at his A3 skill. His A3 skill, Hardy Soul, places a shield buff proportional to the champion's defense. There, at least this is proccing off his defense. And 25% strengthen buff on all allies for 2 turns. Okay, so that's nice. He gives a strengthening and a shield, and you're going to build him with a lot of HP because you want to push that HP as far away from the enemy's shield size as possible to increase that penetration. So even though he's a defense scaler, you're going to be stacking HP on him. Places a counterattack buff on this champion for 2 turns. Just on him, though. That's a little selfish. And a 5-turn cooldown, though you can book it down to 3-turn, I guess. So that's not bad. 3-turn cooldown, 3-turn cooldown. At least his skills cycle quickly. What's his passive? Maybe the magic's in his passive. Removes 1 random debuff from this champion at the start of their turn, so he's got an automatic self-cleanse of 1 random debuff that's on him. Which could be good if he's being controlled, if he's stunned, if he's under a fear effect. If you things like that, he'll be able to remove that and take an action. If he's under multiple debuffs, you got to trust on RNG to get you out of trouble, right? At the start of every 4th turn by this champion, removes all debuffs from them and places a 60% increased defense buff on them for 2 turns. At the start of the 4th turn, I'm not deep enough into this game to get into RTA yet, into real-time PvP here, but how many fights go to 4 turns on a unit that doesn't seem to be built for speed? Seems to be built for, like, damage and defense and HP, just bruisery stats. Because I feel like this is never going to happen anywhere except PvE, and his kit doesn't seem like it's really focused on PvE, unless there are some shield PvE bosses out there. I don't know. This doesn't feel good, and it's it's a full cleanse, which is nice, but I mean, it's a full cleanse and it gives a defense buff, but I don't know. I'm just not feeling that. Increases this champion's defense by 3% for each debuff removed by this skill. Okay, so this is nice, right? Up to 30%. And I mean, you're going to do 1, 2, 3, and then this one's going to hit, and removes all debuffs from them and places defense on them. I assume that we're just missing a little bit of a typo or a little bit of instruction here. This means it's gonna do this for your entire party. That could easily, by his 4th turn, slam him up to 30% increased defense, and since he's a defense scaler with a defense buff and 30% increased damage, his defense is going to go through the roof and he's going to start really hitting hard. So your goal is to get this guy to his 4th turn and take him into debuff heavy teams that also use shields, and you need to kind of rely on somebody to keep shields on him unless you have this booked up. It's going to take some setup, but I think in the right situation he could probably do some serious damage. It's just he's not a cleave style nuking unit. He's somebody that you gotta build well. How are his stats stacked up? He's got really good HP. He's got really bad attack, but that makes sense because he's a defense scaler. Good defense, decent speed, and mediocre everything else. So you're going to have to build him with some speed because you want him to take turns. You can't just build him base speed, I think. You want to build him with some speed so that he can cycle to get to this 4th turn, because getting to this 4th turn, getting the cleanse, getting the 30% defense buff, plus the defense, or 30% defense increase plus the defense buff, all that stacked together so he can start doing serious damage. That seems to be key, and taking him into fights where the enemy procs shields. It's a very narrow window, right? And yeah, it increases defense. That makes sense. It's a very narrow window for this guy. I think this is a very niche hero, if I don't miss my bet. Just from what I know from the other games I've played, feels kind of niche. Tell me what you guys think. I don't have the currency to go for him right now. I'm pretty new, and Fabian has taken everything from me. It'll take a lot of luck for me to get through the deck event to get this guy, so he may be off the table for me, which I'm kind of okay with. I'm not entirely sure where I'd use this guy. He seems a bit beyond early to mid-game play. This guy seems like a very niche late-game tool for your toolbox, not a must-have, but a nice one to add, and man, he looks fierce. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Are you going to go for this guy? Is he really good? Am I completely missing something that should be painfully obvious that tells me why this guy is busted meta and I should pull for him? Or is it just kind of nice that it's it's a free legendary if you do all of the things, free with big quotes around it, right? Let me know what you guys think. And for those of you who are new, I wouldn't sweat it. I don't think he is that big of a deal. If you're new, I think you can save up maybe for the next one. Somebody who, clearly screams this one is worth all your resources. And for those of you who are new, make sure you use that promo code. Get your legendary Eleneral. Get your you know what? I'm gonna say it. Get your legendary Rector Drath. I know she's only really an epic, but come on, she is a legendary in epics clothes. And also, don't forget, when you start out, if you're into orcs right now, you can come over here and enter Supreme 6 and get the legendary Gallic for free, just for starting raid on your first day for free. That's Eleneral for free, Rector Drath for free, and Supreme Gallic all for free on your first day of gameplay. Super strong heroes right out of the gate, and though we're running out of time, there is still time for you to go into the Alice Chase, and on your 7th day pick up Alice the Wanderer for free. So within your first week, 3 legendary heroes and Rector Drath. It's one hell of a start for this anniversary season, and it's a great way to start out your St. Patrick's Day as well. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you guys. Kawn Branchbreaker, and you guys have a great rest of your week.